A beloved character's soul is finally revealed in a movie that almost got deleted. The MCU might be making a major change to the MCU, and we are celebrating a major award win for a Ghanaian star. We're breaking down all the stories you need to know in entertainment right now. Welcome to the Fun Mandate. My name is Papa Otu. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome back to the Film Mandate, where I bring to you movie news, reviews, and reactions, both from the African front and the international scene. And in today's stories, we are covering, it's a fantastic mix of stories today for this episode, I must say. And the very first story, we'll be delving into the Coyote versus Acme story and all the details surrounding it that finally is going to get a release date that it's been fans have been fighting for quite some time now. And also we'll be delving into the possibility of a major change that is going to be made by the MCU to the X-Men characters going forward after the Avengers Secret War. So we'll be delving into a report that gives us highlights on these things. And also we'll be celebrating the Ghanaian star Lil Win for his Best Actor win in the Sotigui 2025 awards that was organized quite recently in Burkina Faso. So we'll be touching on all these stories. Let's delve into it right now. So starting with the very first story, Coyote versus Acme is one of the stories or movies that nearly got axed by the axe of David Zaslav when he took over Warner Brothers from AT&T with his Discovery company. And when he took over, looking at um, the huge depths that Warner Brothers was in, he thought it best to ask a number of movies, whether rightly so or not. He was seeking at reducing the debt of the company, or now WBD, that is Warner Brothers Discovery. And one of the films that was almost on the chopping block was Coyote versus Acme. And in a twisted turn of event, it looks like it is not going to be asked anymore, as Ketchup Entertainment has acquired the property for $50 million and it's going to receive a release in actually 2026 in somewhere in August. And they also gave Kinology, an international distribution company, who sought to secure a potential um, distribution sale in Cannes this year. So that's quite an interesting story we are embarking on today. So let's take a quick read at the Coyote versus Acme story published in the Empire, and it gives us much more information as to what is happening. So Coyote versus Acme will reveal what makes Wile E Coyote tick. We want to get into his soul. For a while, it seemed impossible, but it's finally true. In 2026, audiences will get to see Coyotes versus Acme, the live action animation hybrid comedy that was unceremoniously dumped by Warner Brothers in 2023 for a tax break to match public outcry. Early word from insiders is that the Looney Tunes movie is a supremely funny film depicting the legal battle between the embattled Wile Coyote and the Acme Corporation that has routinely dealt him damage through explosive and defective products. Now, under a new distribution deal, fans will get to find out for themselves if it was worth the wait. Director Dave Green is excited for people to see another side to the Looney Tunes legend. When we grew up watching him, there is something kind of villainous about him, he tells Empire. We want to pop that myth and get into his soul and show you what really makes him tick. The results he promises are very laugh out loud funny. and will have you firmly on Team Coyote. While he has been absolutely maligned for 80 years, he's been blown up, he's been smashed by anvils, and just completely mistreated by the Acme Corporation. He reasons. And the more we read this piece, the more you laugh, and you also realize what Wile E has a really great case here. So that is just a bit published in the article um, on the Empire website. And that is quite interesting to read because it looks like the recent case of Coyotes versus Acme battle is almost like what is actually or is going to be portrayed in the film itself, seeing that it nearly got axed and whatever it tries to do to be able to salvage itself, it looks like it doesn't seem to always go the way of Coyote. But finally, it looks like Coyote has received justice, seeing that finally it will be in cinemas for people to watch this hilarious film that seemed to be the talk of town for quite maybe for the better part of almost 3 years. And that is quite exciting to see. And I can understand the outcry by the crew and cast of the film, seeing that they put in years of their life to make that a possibility. And this seems to be uh, almost a similar trend of the superhero film, the Zack Snyder universe, but not to detract from the focus of this story. Animation is quite a difficult project to embark on, regardless of whether it is a hybrid as we have seen in this production, or be it a full-blown one. And it's quite tough. Even if it is a live action film, it is quite tough. And unfortunate for the makers or the participants of the movie the Batwoman, or is it Batgirl, the Batgirl, and Scoob, those two properties unfortunately got axed, with some insiders saying that Batgirl in particular was not really a good film. As to whether that is the case or not, I think it is very heartbreaking to have your film not show, and that I can understand. But I can also understand from the point of view of executives or owners of the Warner Brothers. And Dave Zaslav is in a very peculiar, or was in a very peculiar situation, seeing that he didn't potentially, or he didn't actually greenlight any of these projects that he asked. But for some reason, it looks like one way or the other, he's been convinced enough to let someone else take upon this property and distribute. And finally, Ketchup Entertainment has done that. And Ketchup Entertainment actually is not just this film actually happens not to be the very first that he has or they have salvaged from the hands of Warner Brothers on the chopping block by another Looney Tunes film that is the day the world blew up was salvaged by them and was released in the early part of this year, if I'm not mistaken, in February. So it is indeed exciting for fans who are diehard fans of this property. I actually also had the opportunity to grow up on the Looney Tunes, watching from Daffy Duck to Tweety to Piggy, and all those characters that you can find within the IP franchise of the Looney Tunes. So finally, this is going to be released. Actually, it's going to have a proper theatrical release date come August 2026. So it is indeed exciting that all those who worked on it, from Will Forte, let me see, yeah, Will Forte, who happens to be in this very image, to John Cena himself, who is indeed a big star, seeing the movies that he's done, from Pacemaker to other, the Fast and Furious franchise. So I'm sure they are excited to finally have the production that they have been working on for quite a while finally receiving its proper theatrical release going forward. So that is indeed exciting to see. And this particular property indeed was worked on by quite a number of big or heavy Hollywood executives. Talking about James Gunn, who is now the co-chair of DC. He actually crafted a story and actually pitched the whole property to Warner Brothers to get it made. And this particular story is written by, um, sorry, it's directed by Dave Green, who was the director of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Out of the Shadows and also Earth to Echo, and is written by Sammy Birch. Sammy Birch, who also wrote May December. And you also have, based on the story by James Gunn, Jeremy Slater, and Birch himself. The producers for this particular property is actually Chris the Faria, Chris the Faria of the Lego Movie, and James Gunn of Guardians of the Galaxy as well. So this indeed is another triumphant win by fans of the Warner Brothers property, and it looks like finally it is getting the release that it deserved. And almost similar to what happened to the Zack Snyder or the Snyderverse, the fans of this property also embarked on a release campaign, a hashtag release campaign with a hashtag release Coyote versus Acme movement as well. So it's quite interesting that this is happening to Warner Brothers once again. However, this doesn't involve a huge capital injection like the Snyderverse did. And finally, they are receiving this particular property being released in the cinemas come um, next year, 2026. But the key to this story is how those who may not be directly involved in the property but still watched it spoke highly of it as well. And I think it will be nice to read about it. So from the Dave Green himself, he spoke about this. That when we grew up watching him, there's something kind of villainous about him, which I've already read. And let me just pick another article that spoke highly of it. So when you go to the the directors of Batgirl also spoke about how wonderful of a film this is. Will Forte himself, who happened to be the main star, said that when he heard that a film is being canned or being axed, what he thought of was the fact that maybe this movie was that bad, but he got the opportunity to watch the entire film. And when he did watch the entire film, he loved it so much and actually sent a message out there to both crew and fans, hoping that this film will see the light of day. So several filmmakers, even from Phil Lord and Chris Miller, also saw the film and spoke highly of the film as well, how entertaining it was and how touching of a film that is, particularly concerning the ending. So, indeed, finally, it looks like justice is being served for the cast and crew of this film, and hopefully, it does well at the theatrical box office, and that may go a long way to make sure that films of that nature doesn't get to be canned ever again. So let me know what you think about this particular property of Warner Brothers. Are you looking forward to seeing this particular film? And if you are looking forward to seeing this particular film, what are you more excited about? Is it the emotional deep take of this classic cartoon character, or perhaps just the nostalgic moments is going to put you in when you finally get to see it? Whatever your thoughts may be, kindly leave it in the comment section below. So finally, as we've wrapped on this particular story for Warner Brothers, we now move to another exciting property that people are looking forward to see its revival, and that is none other than the X-Men property. And for quite a while, for those who happen to have watched the X-Men being helmed by the 20th Century Fox at the time, we all got to see how wonderful of the collage of a character the X-Men property actually has, from the Professor Xavier to Magneto to Storm to Jean Grey and a whole lot. And through, we realized that the main character that was front and center to all the stories that was released under the banner of the 20th Century Fox was none other than the Wolverine as a character. And funny enough, as perhaps fate would have it, even the introduction of the X-Men into the MCU properly, we also had Wolverine being introduced into it in the Deadpool and Wolverine film. Well, report has it that going forward, when finally the X-Men or the Avengers film wraps on Avengers Secret Wars, it looks like going forward, the new take would not be Wolverine leading front and center, but rather we're going to have a different character taking upon the mantle of leadership. And this is reported in the direct a couple of days ago, but I felt the story is so interesting that we need to take a read at it. So MCU's the X-Men movie will reportedly replace Wolverine with a new with a new main character, and this is reported in the direct website on the direct website. It says that Wolverine's time as the de facto X-Men main character may finally be over. A new report has suggested that the MCU's X-Men movie will replace Wolverine as its mutant main character. Since the X-Men's live-action debut in 2000, Hugh Jackman's claw-bearing Canadian has been viewed as the main protagonist of the X-Men franchise that has continued through the rest of the X-Men films, with Wolverine getting the honor as the first mutant character to lead his own MCU movie in 2023's Deadpool and Wolverine. That will all seemingly change with Marvel Studios' forthcoming X-Men film. However, according to known movie scooper Christian Harloff, the Summers family, led by Scott Summers' Cyclops, will be the focus of the MCU's first wave of mutant stories. Speaking on a recent episode of his podcast, Harloff posted that one of the things they could be doing with the X-Men is a heavy push with Cyclops and the Summers family. One of the things they could be doing with the X-Men, because everyone know they are leading with the X-Men, is with Cyclops. They are going to be doing a heavy push with with him and the Summers family. So Wolverine would not be a big focus. Some had taken this to mean that Scott Summers and the rest of the Summers family would be a big focus of the character's upcoming appearance in Avengers Doomsday. But that is not the case. Harloff clarified in a follow-up post on X, adding that Cyclops will be the focus of the New Mutant saga, not Doomsday. This would presumably see a wholly new version of Cyclops, Scott Summers' take on the main character role of the MCU X-Men project. Classic X-Men actor James Marsden will appear in the upcoming Avengers Doomsday, but this role is not expected to extend beyond the MCU's ongoing multiverse saga. And that is quite an interesting story to finally see roll out. And yes, if any of you did watch the is it the chair watch that announced the various characters that are likely to feature in the X Avengers Doomsday, we realized that the name was missing, and that was Hugh Jackman. And I must also say that Marvel actually did state in an article that they are likely to do a second chair watch, which doesn't seem may happen, but rumors perhaps or potentially abound, or speculations abounds that regardless, it looks like Hugh Jackman may feature in this film, even though there's not been an official report on that. So with these speculations, there is the likelihood that Wolverine or Hugh Jackman's character may feature in it, perhaps as a surprise cameo or as a surprise character in the film. But regardless, it looks like going forward, there's going to be a different take as to the X-Men after the multiverse saga in the MCU finally comes to an end. And Christian Harloff has stated, of which I did actually watch the particular episode that he stated this in. But key to it all is the fact that this particular approach would want to see the Cyclops as front and center of this particular, new phase going forward. And I think it's quite interesting and potentially very true because if you take a look at the MCU when they began, starting with Iron Man, and you had the Incredible Hulk, Thor, and all that, you realize that the character that became key, fine, the character that became key to the entire universe was actually Iron Man, Tony Stark Iron Man. That is Robert Downey Jr.'s Tony Stark Iron Man in the entire movie. But then you realize that the one that wielded the leadership of the Avengers and who also was key to the entire story was Captain America. That is Chris Evans, Steve Rogers, Captain America. If I'm to draw parallels between this potential story of Cyclops and the Cyclops family leading the way to that of the earlier phases, and perhaps even now the phase of um, having the Infinity Stones, Infinity Saga, you realize that Captain America was key to everything that was happening in the MCU. So I feel like with the potential ending, even though we've seen the end of Captain America, Steve Rogers, there are so many rumors abounding that Captain America would return. If not as Captain America, we're going to have Steve Rogers return into this particular story. So I very firmly believe that MCU or the leadership of MCU or Marvel wants to sort of reignite a similar um, property or character into the new phase that they are going into. Because whether we like it or not, the Marvel Cinematic Universe will never be the same after the end game, and perhaps we may have glimpses of them finally in the two Avengers movies. So going forward, I feel like the Marvel suits or Kevin Feige in particular wants to recreate a similar feel of the MCU with different characters, but occupying almost the same role as the previous ones have done. And moving on after the multiverse saga, we know that we are moving into the mutant saga. So obviously, whether we're going to have the Avengers or the what's it called, the Avengers or Chloe Zhao's film. Why am I blanking out on their name? Whether we are going to have the different groups in the MCU, be it the Fantastic Four, the Eternals. Yes, that was what I wanted to come up with, and the Fantastic Four. Featuring heavily would be the mutants, and obviously key leaders of the mutants will lead the entire universe going forward. And I know that traditionally Scott Summers have been the leaders or the leader of the MCU aside Professor Xavier and in some faction also Magneto. So I feel like making a comparison, it looks like Scott Summers may be the one to occupy that straight and Boy Scout role of Captain America. And obviously, I feel like that may be very very true because if you are comparing these two characters, both of them don't have like a whole gamut of powers. Captain America, after being injected with a super soldier serum, all he has is longevity of life, maybe because he was frozen in the ice. But that seems he doesn't age rapidly as the others, and not just that, he has supernatural strength as well. or super strength as well. When you take a look at Scott Summers, he doesn't have much going for him apart from perhaps his ability to explode, having what's it called, eyes emanating from his fire emanating from his eyes. I'm sure he has other powers as well, but key to what we know is his laser beam. But I think what the MCU may be looking at doing, or Marvel or Kevin Feige may be looking at doing, is actually relying on his leadership strength, his his charisma as a leader to move everything forward, just as we saw in Captain America, Steve Rogers. So I feel like they may be drawing similar parallels to bring a character who may not be having much going for him in terms of powers, but when it comes to the fortitude of his character and his charisma and his ability to lead, that will be front and center, and that would endear the audience to Scott Summers just as it endeared us to Captain America, Steve Rogers. So I feel like they may be doing something similar. I do not have any insights. I mean, for where I am, I'm literally a non-existent YouTuber, but from what I've observed in the films going forward, I can guesstimate that perhaps that is what they want to do with this property going forward, and it will be indeed quite interesting to see. However, with the speculations going on that Wolverine may return, I feel like even not just return, but perhaps even extend beyond the Avengers Secret Wars. It is very possible that if seeing how key Wolverine or Hugh Jackman's Wolverine has been in this entire thing, if it becomes true, he may play a fiddle more like a, well, if I'm to guesstimate, he may not have a major role in the entirety of the films. Could potentially be like, for lack of a better analogy, maybe a Nick Fury in the X-Men going forward. I'm just guessing because I'm sure finally they would want to phase him out and replace him with a new actor. So there's a lot that we are yet to see when finally they give it a full blown come the mutant saga phase. So it'll be interesting to see. I know you are also interested in seeing that, but regardless, let me know what you think. If Wolverine isn't the main character, do you think Scott Summers may be the one according to the scoop that Christian Harloff offered? Or do you think a different character altogether may occupy that leadership role? Whatever your thoughts may be, kindly leave it in the comment section below. And moving on from the X-Men story, we now move on to another exciting news that one of Ghana's major stars has won an award, and I'm talking about none other than Lil Wayne for the best actor role in the Sotigui Awards ceremony that was organized, I think, last 2 weeks or last week in Burkina Faso for the film that Lil Wayne actually starred in. He executive produced and starred in, and I'm talking about The Last Hero or The Last African Hero, Ibrahim Traore. So he has won for the best actor role and made a list of several actors on the continent, and that is indeed a big feather in the cap of Lil Wayne as an actor. I'm excited about this because when you look at what they do in terms of the films they produce, particularly in the Kumasi region of Ghana, they are really daring to tell stories that are quite sensitive but have a humorous way of going about it. And I must admit, a lot of people were worried as to how he would approach this. And finally, when he did it, it looks like the Burkinabes or the leadership of Burkina Faso were excited about this and received this particular film wholeheartedly. So indeed, it is quite exciting to see him being celebrated for such a risk that he took. And finally, it actually paid off. So Lil Wayne have been, I mean, his name actually is Kojo Kwanzaa, but his moniker is Lil Wayne. And he's been celebrated for such a bold effort that he did. And in this image, this is not actually the image that depicted his win at the award. Let me see if I can be able to put it up. Unfortunately, I do not have it. But yeah, I will see if I can share the link in the description below. But regardless, he has been celebrated for such a buoyant effort of his in making this particular win possible. So congratulations to Kojo Nkansa Lil Win for his win at the Sotigui Award that was held a couple of days ago. And not only him, but also Ghanaian stars Fred Amugi and Nadia Buari were also honored at this particular event as well. And I'm excited that he's won this particular award for his effort in depicting the true life story of the African legend, even already a legend, Captain Ibrahim Traore, the industrious leader of Burkina Faso. So congratulations to him, and also I think I would want to say I appreciate the efforts of Burkina Faso honoring him as well. And this happens to be the 10th edition of this particular event. So we'll be looking forward to seeing going forward more exploits being done by the Sotigui Awards and as well Lil Win for this particular win. And unfortunately, all too soon, I have to come to an end of this exciting episode of the Film Mandate. And thanks so much for joining me for this episode. I hope you've enjoyed yourself. Whatever your thoughts may be, kindly leave it in the comment section below, and I'll be coming your way with another exciting episode of the Film Mandate. My name is Papa O2, and this has been the Film Mandate. I will see you soon.